No, we're good. Okay. You're rolling.
Woo! Yeah!
Thank you. All right, thank you guys for coming. I really appreciate it. This is my closure. It's all about how social media impacts us and adolescents. And I would like to challenge you all to put your phones away for the next 30 minutes. I know it's going to be hard. Good, okay. Whatever you do not to check them. It's a little challenge. I know it's difficult for all of us. Alright, so this is kind of the agenda for today. We're going to start with my objectives and hypothesis I made before I began the project. And then we're going to go into some background about social media and some statistics. And then I'm going to talk about the methods I use to collect data. And then I will share my results and then conclusions and recommendations for you guys. Okay, so the objectives to my project. The first one I made was to characterize the use of social media by middle and high schoolers at our school. And the second was to describe how social media use impacts interaction and communication skills of adolescents at our school. And my hypothesis before beginning research or collecting data was I thought that higher frequency of social media use among middle and high school students is negatively associated with their perceived comfort level regarding interpersonal communication. So I thought there's a negative association between more use of social media and interpersonal communication. So background, I spent the first phase of my project researching all about social media and how adolescents use media. So these are a couple of statistics I grabbed from the Pew Research Center, which is the most recent data, which is from 2015. So 75% of teens say they use more than one social media platform. 92% of teens report going online daily. Average teen has about 200 Facebook friends. And teens spend at least 3 hours a day on their social media platforms. And then lastly, 18% of social media users say they can't go more than a few hours without having to check their platforms. Alright, how does social media affect the brain? We've all experienced it the many times a day our phones light up with a new notification. Our instincts lead us to immediately check who texted us or who Snapchatted us or who liked our picture, or whatever the notification may be. But what most of you may not know is that engagement with social media releases a chemical in the brain called dopamine. In a 2012 study, Harvard research scientists reported that talking about oneself through social media produces a pleasure sensation in the brain usually associated with food, money, and sex. This chemical is highly addictive, and thus adolescents are instantly dependent on their social media platforms. Our entire generation has access to an addictive, numbing chemical made through social media as we go through the crazy high stresses of adolescence. So in a way, social media is as addictive as a drug, which is super crazy to think about. Alright, so the methods I used to collect data. The first method was I surveyed students and teachers at our school through SurveyMonkey. So I had to learn about how to use SurveyMonkey and how to conduct a survey. So, yeah. And for the middle schoolers, I presented in their health classes. And then for high schoolers, I emailed and talked face-to-face as well as Facebook, so using social media. It's important to keep in mind that the data I collect reflects only a subset of international students and teachers, so it really can't be applied to the general public, so just to keep that in mind. The data I produced was quantitative, and then these are the response rates for each of my surveys, so keep that in mind. And I will be looking at a few specific questions that I analyzed, but the survey was around 20 questions, and there were many more than what I can actually talk about today, but these are a few examples of what my survey looked like. And the next method I used to collect data was through focus group. So I recruited 7 middle schoolers and 5 high schoolers, and we met in the office conference room, and it lasted about 45 minutes, and I basically came with a set of questions, and it was just a big discussion. And I took in all the opinions that everybody had, and it was pretty fun. And I had to ask permission of all the participants that I could videotape them, because I later transcribed our whole dialogue. All right, student survey data. I'm going to be showing you a couple questions from my student survey that I analyzed. So this is the question I decided to analyze from the middle school data. The question is, how often are you able to sustain attention when people are talking to you? I decided to display this graph using a Likert scale on the y-axis, right there, where the participants were to choose an answer between 1 and 10, 1 being never and 10 being always. After analyzing the data, I realized that all the responses fell between around 7 and 9, so that's why I decided to kind of zoom up just between that range, so you can really see the declining pattern. So the x-axis is average hours per day on social media, so that's kind of how I broke it up, and that will be consistent through all of my graphs. So this slide shows that the middle schoolers who spend the most time on social media have the smallest attention span. As we can see, the kids who sustain the most attention fall between the 1 and 3 hours a day. So this kind of shows that social media can have a positive impact on focusing and sustaining attention. So these are the questions I chose to analyze for the student survey for high schoolers. So the question on the left is regards the comfort level of the students' verbal expression. So online communicators use alternative cues to compensate for lack of nonverbal cues. We can use the data shown to prove that those who use social media more frequently have a more difficult time expressing themselves in a verbal manner. For the graph on the left, I used the same Likert scale on the y-axis, but this time the response options ranged from 1 to 4, 1 being most uncomfortable and 4 being the most comfortable, and then the x-axis is the same. We can see a significant declining pattern displayed by this graph. And then the question is, are you comfortable apologizing to someone face-to-face via social media and a handwritten note? So we can see that the trend for the green bars, or the face-to-face, right there, is slightly sloped downwards. This indicates that people who use social media more are less comfortable apologizing to someone face-to-face. This might be because there's significant aspect of confrontation while communicating face-to-face. So this could be uncomfortable or abnormal for those who use social media as their primary form of communication. As for the yellow bars, or the handwritten note, there's an inclining pattern, meaning that those who use social media feel more comfortable handwriting a note as an apology method. And this might be because these adolescents are used to generating content, expressing themselves, and can accurately do so through a handwritten note. And then lastly, for the blue bars, or apologizing via social media, we see that the comfortability of those who use social media more often tend to apologize via their social platforms naturally, due to their more proficient use of social media, so they're more comfortable apologizing through those platforms versus in person. So I also decided to compare the same question for both middle and high school. And I chose this question, and it is, how comfortable are you verbally expressing your ideas to teachers? When looking at these two graphs, it's evident that the trends are very similar in that those who use social media less are more comfortable verbally expressing their ideas to teachers. So I thought it was interesting that both middle and high school high school responses were very similar. I wasn't really expecting that, actually. All right. In addition to conducting a student survey, I also conducted a teacher survey. I did this because teachers are great witnesses of how social media impacts their students. Okay, so this is the question I decided to analyze from the teacher survey. I thought it was the most telling of what they thought. Also, it's important to keep in mind that the majority of teachers I surveyed had 6 or more years of experience teaching. They have really observed social media gain popularity throughout the years. So, yeah, just keep that in mind. When looking at this graph, it is clear that the perception of teachers regarding the impact of social media on their students is primarily negative, and that most of their responses range between 1, very negative, or no impact. I thought that was really interesting. Social media is a constant distraction, whether that is at home, at work, or in school. So the focus and attentiveness during class bar, right here, is the lowest, meaning the teachers think social media has the most negative impact on this topic. Thank you. Alright, and then also the bar that's the highest is the team project work. So the teachers think their students are impacted positively by social media in this category. Alright, so I also included a couple of quotes from the teacher survey. I asked them about their opinion, so it's kind of open-ended on the last couple questions of the survey. So these are a couple of quotes that came up quite a bit, I noticed. So one of them is they think that social media increases the feeling of isolation in adolescents. Also, they think that students are exposed to age-inappropriate situations on social media. And then lastly, there are a lot of comments like the last one, that the connectivity of students is increased due to social media, and it can help develop relationships and friendships. Okay, the next method I used to collect data was through a focus group. So this was my focus group, but a couple people had to leave before that, so it was a little bit more full. But before diving into deeper questions, I asked participants why they enjoyed using social media, and the majority of their responses looked a little bit like this. Social media makes it easy to connect. You can see what your friends are up to, and it fills the time when you have nothing to do. Students who experience low self-esteem can take advantage of social media and its capability to bond them with others in order to pull themselves up from the slumps of their moods. The internet offers young people an opportunity to develop new relationships with unknown people from virtually any geographical area or any background. And lastly, social media can revive and preserve relationships with other people. In addition to asking them what they enjoy about social media, I also asked if they know or have experienced any negative consequences due to their social media platforms. So the first one that came up a lot was cyberbullying. According to an internet safety survey, 92% of teens who use social media have witnessed cyberbullying, and 49.5% of students reported victimization by bullying online, according to a recent study. Many people said that it can cause stress and anxiety. Extensive online engagement is correlated with personality and brain disorders such as poor social skills, ADHD, depression, narcissistic tendencies, and addictive behaviors or other emotional distress. And also, stress and anxiety levels often increase due to one's fear of missing out, which I'm sure we all experience. Many others said that social media lowers their self-confidence or their self-esteem. Social media addiction stems from the constant positive reinforcement of comments and likes. Posts on social media are often idealized versions of reality. Thus, users constantly compare themselves to others, which negatively affects their moods and self-esteem. And what really stood out to me from the focus group was how much the participants emphasized social media being a distraction from homework, and the quality of their work is compromised due to the constant need to be involved with their platforms. In addition, the participants made it very clear that it is rare to conduct a conversation with peers or their friends without the involvement of cell phone devices. So this further proves the addiction a lot of us have to social media. So the conclusions I was able to draw from my data were somewhat supported, or my hypothesis somewhat supports the data I found. In that it's more difficult for students to sustain attention who use social media more. Those who use social media more are often less comfortable expressing their ideas to others. But also I think it's really important to keep in mind that social media inherently isn't good or bad. It's all about how you use it. So it's pretty personalized for yourself. It's all about like the right amount. So if I would have done my project differently, I think I would have branched out and recruited students from other schools to participate in my surveys, and I could have done another focus group to make my sample a little bit more representative to adolescents in the public, not just at our school. Okay, recommendations. I encourage you all to set goals for yourself regarding social media use. That means compartmentalizing your schoolwork or your job or your top priority, and then saving social media as a reward. I can assure you that separating social media with schoolwork will benefit many aspects of your life. Challenging yourself to focus on one task at a time will better your comprehension on the topic as well as increase the quality of your work. And I would like to give a couple of shout outs to my mentor, Dr. Marino. She's from Seattle Children's Hospital, and she focuses on child behavior and development, and she has a super crazy schedule, and I'm very thankful that she was able to carve time out of her days to meet with me. And then also I'd like to thank Stephanie and Melinda and all you guys for participating and being here. And then I found this website. It is on healthychildren.org, and if you guys want to pull your computers out, it's kind of cool. It kind of shows you how much media time you should be spending each day based on how much sleep you want, or your school, or sports, or whatever. So if you guys want to do that, you can, but if not, it's fine. And if you have any questions, I can answer them.
Yeah!